Hello, everybody. Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, here with our third ever live pod. Riker, we've been sort of off the go, busy with school applications and all these sorts of things, but happy to be back at it and break down some Raptors news.
Then, as I always say, best time of the year, off season. Love it.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we may as well dive straight into it. I see in the chat people are asking, "What's the news on Giannis Antetokounmpo?" Have a Giannis watch. Didn't I forgot to put the segment clip for Giannis. I knew I was forgetting one thing in for the live stream, but it is
No.
what it is. But Riker, you want to break it down, all the reports and stuff that's been going on surrounding Giannis leaving the Bucks?
Ben, the reports are simple and they don't speak towards the Raptors' benefit, unfortunately. Reports. I'm going to break down who the source is. It's some girl. I didn't conduct my background research. I'm going to do that as soon as I stop talking on who specifically this person is, how she has this news. But supposedly, in the bid for Giannis and the potential of maybe doing a sign and trade or doing any kind of trade, we know the big players in the game, Golden State, Miami, to name two of the big ones. The reports are coming out. Giannis, he's willing to commit long term to the Miami Heat. I don't know if I believe in it. I don't know how much stock I'm putting into this report, Ben, but it's not good for Raptors land.
Yeah, and you and I brought this up, especially with the playoff run that the Miami Heat had this year. You know, the Heat, they made it to the finals without a true superstar top 10 player. I know people are sort of talking about Jimmy Butler in that fashion now, but no true superstar at the level of Giannis. And obviously, for people that don't know, we've been wanting Giannis to come to the Toronto Raptors seemingly for the past 2 years. We make videos on it bi-monthly, so, we have our whole segment about it, but it's an interesting thing because the Raptors obviously weren't mentioned in this, and they're a team that has been mentioned in the past, but the steam talking about Giannis to the Raptors has really died off. So, Riker, obviously, team reporters, everyone's going to talk about the Golden State Warriors. They're set up. They're a team that's one of the best franchises over the past 10 years. Obviously, they're going to be talked about as a potential landing spot for Giannis, especially with their trade pieces. The Heat, after the playoff run they just had, but does this mean that the Raptors are less likely to get him, in your opinion? And if it is, should the Raptors go all out and try and make a trade for Giannis? Because, we brought up potentially maybe swapping out a guy that I've added the jersey to back here now, Pascal Siakam. Got the new threads back here. So, should we potentially look to make a big move or, hope for the best in free agency in that 2021 year?
Well, if the reports are already coming, I don't think there's any debate. I don't even want to say this. Reports or no reports. If the Heat can pull off a trade that lands Giannis, I think it would be very hard to pull him away from that team. We've made the comparisons between coaching, and it's very close, between culture of winning, it's very close, between team chemistry and being on the verge of a championship, or to be a championship team if you just add Giannis to the mix. Very close between the Raptors and the Heat for all of those things. So I don't think it's a stretch to say, if in the sweepstakes to get Giannis as a trade piece or put him on the trade block, that if the Heat were to acquire him, I think that could be a done deal. So of course the Raptors should put their name in the hat, but would it come to the detriment of trading away Pascal Siakam, or really just Pascal Siakam, and say, oh gee, guys that we really feel like they need to be there in order for
You
Giannis
really
on the
trying to
Raptors to
you're
work?
really trying to ruin my backdrop with this?
Well, I can't see the OG jersey.
This is a hit. Oh, you can't see it, but the buys can. Got the camera set up kind of weird, but I don't know. Would you do that deal? Would you give up Siakam and OG for a potential 1 year rental on Giannis Antetokounmpo? Because that would blow up our team. And Masai Ujiri said those guys weren't going to be in a Kawhi Leonard trade, and for good reason. Obviously, there are young pieces, but would you even consider that? Be happy with that?
Well, I'm looking here. This is going to be a critical point to look at the comment section, because you're right. If we're looking at trading OG and Siakam, you're going to have to max out Fred VanVleet. That's the only guy that you're putting your future around. You'd have an old Ibaka, you'd have an old Lowry, you have Terrence Davis, and God knows what's going to happen with that whole
No.
story. Norman Powell maybe. So it's like you're putting all your chips into Norman Powell, Fred VanVleet, and Giannis. That doesn't necessarily sound like a championship or perennial championship team, Ben.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Let's scope out this chat a little bit. Got Ali in here asking me if I got my computer science assignment done. I got that done. Uh, 1-2 punch. OG Pascal. Looks like people want to stay. I don't know. We're a little bit behind in the chat. Also, want to preface this. We have some people also questioning the Giannis rumors and all that sort of stuff. So, like, we've made thousands of videos, it feels like, on Giannis going to the Raptors. The Masai Ujiri connection, the Greek community in Toronto. Obviously, they have that relationship. The Toronto Raptors have been a solid team. They've been open about how they want to sign big free agents in 2021. So that's sort of the short spin on why Giannis could potentially become a Raptor. But do you think there's any deals? Do you think a deal Siakam for Giannis could be potentially compete with a deal the Warriors could bring out, or if the Heat threw in Tyler Hero and some pieces? Do you think we could compete in a trade scenario like that without having to give up OG and Siakam? Because I think giving up those two guys, we'd have the best possible trade. But do you think we could outmatch the other two big players without giving up two of those pieces?
I am very biased because I thought that a deal with Fred VanVleet, Norman Powell, Terrence Davis, Matt Thomas would get that job done. I thought that would be enough to get Giannis. I've had very critical feedback to that sort of thought, and mainly around, and it makes sense. You're giving away a guy who's basically your 3 to 4. Obviously, he can ball handle, but just his size. They have guards, I guess, so to speak. They have Chris Middleton. They have Bledsoe, who they've put on the trading block. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I guess it makes sense. You're not going to trade away Giannis for a ton of guards, maybe. But I would say if you're looking at Siakam instead of VanVleet and Norman Powell, Terrence Davis, Matt Thomas, to me, that should get it done. To me, that should get it done unless those picks to the Bucks are extremely valuable, which you could argue that they are, unless they put up Klay Thompson on the trade market. He is what he is. I don't think he's proven as a centerpiece. I think he's just a complementary player that gets kind of the benefit of being a floor spacer, but that's an extremely hot take. I don't know, Ben. I don't see the Raptors putting up Pascal Siakam's name, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And I tend to agree with you, especially with all the uncertainty, how it just completely tear up the roster and all those sorts of things. And the Bucks have even come out and said, even if Giannis doesn't sign the Supermax, even if all those rumors and all those reports that you mentioned at the start of the podcast continue to come out, they're unlikely to trade Giannis, but that might just be a way to up his value and if the right deal comes along. But I'd still be surprised if they made that move because they are a championship contender.
But again, they want to win the championship. But if they get the report that he is 100% not going to commit to Milwaukee, I could easily see them play the same way that the Spurs played it and say, well, I'm going to at least get value back for it. Now, the Spurs, they unfortunately traded for DeMar DeRozan thinking that was going to be some return. But, when there's Golden State Warriors in the mix, when there's Miami Heat potentially in the mix, those are some incentivizing trade packages. But Ben, before we get any further, I just want to give a moment of respect to the source, Ashley Nicole at Ash Nicole Moss. I've done a little bit of digging now as we've been talking.
Okay.
Nice looking girl. She's on iHeartRadio. So apparently the Greek Zone. I guess that's the type. The Greek Zone. I don't know what that. I haven't listened to it yet, but that's the title. All in with Ashley Nicole. She's got a couple of different hats. It looks like she's on YouTube, but she's all around the NBA sphere. Ben, she's putting up sources, some inside information here, there, and everywhere. So maybe she is reliable. I don't know. Maybe she's got some intros or something. But yeah, definitely seems pretty cool. And she's got some hilarious memes on the election, like NBA/election related content. So there you go.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a wild time for news, wild time for everything. But I don't know. The chat, they're kind of all over the place for what they think will actually happen with Giannis and what trades they'd be down to do and all that sort of stuff. But I guess, do you expect a trade to happen with Giannis before we sort of close that discussion there? And if you do, do you think it will happen, before the season starts? Because obviously the draft is coming in 2 weeks, and we're seeing more and more rumors pick up around the league right now. Does it happen during that 2 weeks of free agency? That's probably going to be a complete just a wild time around the NBA, or do you see it more so happening, the trade deadline, see how the Bucks do if they're underperforming? That's where I picture a Giannis trade happening. I think there's no way they make that deal at the start of the year.
The Bucks won't underperform. I don't think performance in the regular season has anything to do with them trading him, because we've saw that they can have a 60 plus win season, be the best team record wise in the entire NBA, be an odds on championship contending team to come out of the East and still fall flat on their faces come playoff time. So I think that the Bucks and everybody would agree that they're framing this as a must win year, must win championship, must win regular season, must win every playoff series, must dominate, must get it done. And you're not going to know until the very last game, until you're holding the trophy or you're eliminated, if that's going to happen. So to me, a trade comes down to all of the conversations that they've been having in the offseason. If Giannis has said, listen, I'm gonna shop the free agency. I'm likely not gonna re-sign with you guys. I'm likely looking at different options. If he'd made it expressly clear that he's not looking to stay, then I would assume that they're gonna shop him. Why wouldn't you? Why would you let the biggest prospect in the entire NBA walk for no value in return? But I don't think that's a Bucks decision. I think that that's a Giannis Antetokounmpo decision, and he needs to communicate with management. And if he has, I think you'll definitely see him get traded. Not a doubt in my mind.
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair. But we've had some more reports surrounding the Toronto Raptors involving the Bucks about how they want to become better. Obviously, you dropped a podcast on it last week. I didn't have a chance to chime in, but Riker, why do they think they're going to get Kyle Lowry? What on earth do they think they're going to give us to get Kyle Lowry off our team? For people that don't know, didn't watch the video, if you did watch the video, Riker did a really good job. Check that out. But the Bucks are...
Thank you.
Good
job. Wow.
The Bucks are looking to trade for guys like, what is it, Depot, Lowry. I've been sort of off the news talk this week.
They're basically shopping Eric Bledsoe because he's been dreadful in the playoffs, and he is a formidable, serviceable NBA starting point guard. He's getting about 15 points per game, 45% from the field, 33 or 35% from the three. And then playoffs, it drops to a ridiculous level, 11 points per game, 20%-ish from three, sub 40% from the field, like very poor numbers, very much a drop off in his productivity. So it's pretty funny. To me, it's a big slap in his face as them being like, wow, we really lost a big part of our roster and losing Malcolm Brogdon, and we thought that we could replace him with Eric Bledsoe, but ultimately the three packages that were reported was Kyle Lowry, one deal, Chris Paul, one deal, Oladipo, one deal, Ben. So I don't know what you think about those. To me, Chris Paul sounded reasonable. The other two, not so much.
Yeah, well, I've seen people try to find a way to make the money work for Chris Paul, and that's a bit weird. I think it's the same boat for Kyle Lowry, but we got to start on.
It would have to be a sign and trade with one of their guys that are coming up.
Yeah, it would. I don't know what the Bucks are going to do. They're going to have to do some weird 3-team deals to really finesse another top type player. And I think the Chris Paul discussion, I'd like to chime in a little bit on him, but I just want to
chime away.
Well, no, but I want to bring up Kyle Lowry because when I saw those reports, when I saw those things, that's just absurd. That's just dumb. The Bucks, you brought up Eric Bledsoe is obviously the guy that they want to move on from, and I was actually a big fan of Bledsoe, especially when he was in Phoenix. He was called Mini LeBron, how he'd slash the rim, he's aggressive passer, all those sorts of things. But we're not giving up Kyle Lowry for Eric Bledsoe and George Hill and maybe a pick. Like you're in agreement with me. I believe the chats would be in agreement with me. That can't happen. That's a deal that just can't occur right now.
It would be a very strange deal because you're still looking to land Giannis. So you're just kind of bringing in guys from Milwaukee and in hopes that you'd also land. I don't see any trade happening between the Bucks and the Raptors. That's why I shut it down immediately unless it's a Giannis trade.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's just a mess. Or I like DiVincenzo or Brook Lopez, but that's a random sort of deal. But for Chris Paul, do you think if they gave up the house, they gave up Bledsoe, they gave up DiVincenzo, they gave up George Hill, they gave up some picks, all those sorts of things. Obviously, Chris Paul had a great season this year, and the Bucks are obviously one of our top rivals in the Eastern Conference. Do you think he'd put them sort of over the top to make the Eastern Conference Finals, the NBA Finals? Do you think he would sort of bring them to that level? Because just a year ago, he was traded in a salary dump, having to give up multiple first-round picks. People said he was washed. He's another 2 years older from that point, right? obviously he had a tremendous year with Oklahoma City, but would that be a smart risk for the Bucks to take, especially for their long-term plans with Giannis?
Would that be a smart move for the Bucks to take? And yeah, yes. And so this is what I thought. This is why, to me, this was an interesting deal, Ben, because I don't think Bucks actually need to get everything in the kitchen sink in order to make it happen. I don't think that the Thunder actually want Chris Paul on their roster. He's one of the few $40 million a year contract guys. He's very aged. He's 34, 35, 36, between 34 and 36. I know Kyle Lowry and him are in that same sort of place. He still has productivity. They're looking at a 1-year window to win a championship. You bring in a guy who would definitely be an improvement over Eric Bledsoe. And I'm looking at this from the Bucks perspective. Mm-hmm. You trade away whatever piece. You bring in a guy who's going to be an improvement, who's a closer, who's a vet, who could assist the ball very well, who would be very complimentary to Giannis. Obviously, you'd make that deal work if you're the Milwaukee Bucks. If you're the Thunder, you're bringing in multiple pieces. You can basically pay them out or release them. You can do whatever you want. Maybe you get picks, maybe you don't, but you eliminate that huge salary burden for a team that's already has a lot of really young talent. You're looking at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You're looking at Lou Dort. You're looking at who's on the team, Ferguson or somebody like that. You know, maybe you're going to keep Gallinari around. Maybe you're going to let him walk. The future is young for the Thunder. I don't think Chris Paul plays any part in that, so I don't think they'd need a huge deal to make it happen.
Yeah, no, it's pretty spicy, all the trade rumors. We'll plug a little video we got coming tomorrow too. We won't dive into it too much, but the Raptors potentially trading for Jrue Holiday. Like, there has been reports tied, but he wants to get traded to a championship contender. But I don't know. Chris Paul, all these big names floating around, and Ryker, how crazy is the next couple weeks going to be now that we know the draft is happening November 18th, right? The free agency's happening 2 days after that. Any hot takes, wild predictions you have sort of before going into across the NBA, maybe not just the Raptors?
What are you thinking?
I don't know. That's why I throw it to you.
I'm just trying to stay interested in the times, man. We're slowing down on reports a little bit here where we've got some just fun stuff to talk about. I don't know. Things are going to happen extremely quickly. Like you said, the draft, free agency, the next season starting, where the Raptors going to play. You know, we see Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City mayor. They're all trying to get Raptors to come over and play there. Like, there's just a lot of little things on the table, but not a lot to sink our teeth into, man.
Yeah, for sure. That's why these live podcasts are great. But we brought up free agency, and you brought up a little bit. They're saying deals have already been made across the NBA, certain things, and the odds sharks, the odds booking, the bookies, the people that you can bet on basically anything right now have the Toronto Raptors heavy favorites to re-sign Fred VanVleet, Serge Ibaka. Obviously, especially with the news surrounding Terrence Davis, I think you and I both agree Fred VanVleet's a guy we have to retain. We'll talk about Serge Ibaka after, but you in agreement with these odds makers? Obviously, you and I, especially after we wrote them off a couple weeks before the Kawhi trade happened, you and I have been heavy into leaning to what these odds makers sort of say ever since those days. You can look back to some of our preview. When we heard Kawhi was demanding a trade, you and I kind of famously, gets brought up occasionally, that said that the Raptors have a huge opportunity here to trade for LaMarcus Aldridge. But do you...
Some of the things we say doesn't age well, Ben. I will admit that.
You know, it is what it is, but do you agree with the odds sharks? Are you excited about this, especially with the Fred VanVleet sort of talk, and we'll get into Serge after?
Of course I'm excited about it. Not only is Fred VanVleet potentially the starting point guard of the Raptors' future, but he is the number one trade piece that we have. Norman Powell, we finally have this guy who's a mid-market player, but that can actually come in and be an impact guy on a team. You know, we always have big contract guys and guys that suck, but we never have those mid-salary guys that you can toss in to balance a trade. Mm-hmm. And now finally we have that somebody wants. And now finally we have Norman Powell is in that clean $10 million a year. And for anybody just tuning in, I'm about to say, so this is the honest news, is that it's reported by Nicole, who did I say? Nicole Smith?
Moss? I heard of Moss.
Yes, somebody. She's an NBA reporter. She's on something, iHeartRadio. But anyway, she's reporting that he's willing to sign a long-term deal with the Heat. So this is bad news in Raptors land. So the Raptors, they need to go and do something if they want to be competitive in this sweepstakes. And I think Fred VanVleet is the key to that. So you re-sign Fred. This is what the odd shark is saying. We have the best chance in getting him back on this team. Now you can flip him into, if you want, Oladipo. I think there's a trade there with Fred VanVleet and Oladipo. We've discussed that to death. I think you could put him into a package for Giannis. Not saying that would be the package that would win against Golden State, but I'm saying it's a package you could be competitive with. Fred VanVleet, Norman Powell, Terrence Davis, Matt Thomas. Drew Holiday is on the market now. They're expressing, the Pelicans are saying that, and I see some in the comment section too saying, do we want to flip Fred VanVleet for Drew Holiday? That's an option, or he just becomes our perennial starter, Ben. But I really think we need to keep this guy on the team. I'm sure you do.
Yeah, and you and I even agreed on this before the TD news. The Toronto Raptors need to keep Fred VanVleet. You don't let an asset like that walk, even if you have to slightly overpay for him. You know, you and I were a bit hesitant if he was sort of demanding a $30 million per year contract on multiple seasons, but the $20 to $25 million range for an NBA champion, a guy that got a Finals MVP vote, obviously struggles at times, is a little bit inconsistent, but can knock down shots, can lead a team, can sort of take over the reins for Kyle Lowry, be a top-tier starting point guard in the NBA. You gotta bring that guy back. The chat seems to agree with it. And as you said, even if you don't like the contract, you can still sort of flip him for new deals, new contracts, Depot, Holiday, Giannis, whatever. We will break all those down as we go along. But that's good news that the odds are saying that. But the guy that's been a bit polarizing, a bit reports going everywhere, will the Hornets max him out? Will... different teams around the league sort of get him. I've heard people, we'll get into it first. I want to address some wild stuff going on around the NBA surrounding Serge Ibaka, but the Raptors are favored to sign Serge. I think that makes sense, better than these teams that are being floated around. But a lot of people are talking, before we get into the actual realistic Serge talk, people are saying that the Lakers should sign Serge on a mid-level exception. A mid-level. It's for Serge Ibaka. Why on earth would, obviously that would be a perfect fit for them, but Lakers fans, Rockets fans, they all want to think Serge Ibaka is just going to go for no money. You and I have talked about giving Serge a 1-year, $30 million deal, as long as it's not long term. Why on earth do people think he's going to sign a mid-level?
Well, listen, I guess that's the difference between a team that just won the championship and have the biggest ego in the entire NBA and a team that's still vying to get back to that championship level. That's hilarious, though. A mid-level exception to bring him in. But I'll tell you what, Ben. I'll tell you what. If the Hornets come around and the Hornets offer him, if they max him out, if the Hornets max him out, it's not unbelievable to think that those guys. I'll censor myself. That they'll come around with a max. Yeah, 3-year max. The Raptors are not matching that. There's no way. They're not. It's not happening. So Oddchart can say what they want, but if those guys come out of the woodworks, that sleeper team just comes out and just puts a bag on his desk and says, "This money is for you." It's bye-bye Raptors land.
Riker, I'm throwing this question out to you. What is more likely? Serge Ibaka signs with the LA Lakers next season, or the LA Clippers, because I've heard them rumored as well. The LA Lakers, the LA Clippers, or the Houston Rockets on a mid-level exception. That's option one. Or the Charlotte Hornets max out Serge Ibaka and he ends up being a Charlotte Hornet next season. Which one is more likely out of those $100 million in difference for Serge Ibaka? Which one do you think is more likely?
When you put it that way, that's so funny. Definitely option 3, that he just stays with the Raptors. That I think is the most likely outcome.
Yeah. Is there any team you're sort of obviously you and I both can't believe that the Hornets would do that though, right? Realistically, I believe it because they're the Hornets.
We can't believe that they would sign one of the best modern day big men that has had the best season of his career, in 2 back-to-back seasons, is an integral part of any small ball lineup or championship contending team.
You put it like that, but Max for a guy 2 years ago was traded for Terrence Ross.
Listen, I don't want to question what the NBA gods do to certain players, but when somebody's playing well enough to deserve max money, then sometimes they get it in the weirdest ways. And when you have a desperate team like the Hornets, and they've been using guys like, oh, what's his name? Who was their center for the longest while?
Biz Daddy? Are you
No, he was their backup. I feel like his name is some
Kaminsky,
generic white
Zeller?
guy name. Zeller, that's the
Okay.
one.
He's like
Yeah.
average though. I've heard he's like not that bad because they drafted like 5 power forwards right in a row, and he
Zeller.
was like the one that's not that bad.
Ibaka.
Guy Cody Zeller's out here getting buckets. Yo, Frank Kaminsky, once he left, apparently he was good for the Suns. So maybe those Hornets power forwards that they just draft year after year actually have some value. But I don't know. I don't predict he'll end up leaving. Some people have talked about the 76ers. They have Daryl Morey now. He'd be sort of a Daryl Morey-esque big, but they have Joel Embiid on their roster. I don't know. And Al Horford. I don't really see any. I think the Raptors will re-sign Serge at a reasonable deal, but let us know what you guys think. I'm looking at the chat here. Yeah, no one's really flaming anything. People are saying it's important for us to re-sign him. Yeah, it is what it is. So we think Serge Ibaka will bounce back. And yeah, is there any more like free agent targets you want to sort of talk about with the Toronto Raptors? Obviously, we have Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, who's up on contract right now. No one's really been talking about Rondae. I sort of wanted to bring him up a little bit in this pod because he's a guy that really impressed during the regular season, coming out with his energy, his defensive ability. For a stretch there, he was your favorite Toronto Raptor for it seemed like a month or two, his hustle, especially after that Dallas Mavericks comeback win. But he was a guy with a lot of promise coming to the league, but he just couldn't shoot. You're in a league where you need to be able to shoot right now. He was unplayable in the playoffs. What do you think his market value is? And would you want to bring him back on a $2 to $5 million deal?
That I think is his market. I think you got it. First try.
Mm-hmm.
Winner. Chicken dinner.
Would you bring him back on that money?
$2 to $5 million. Yeah, I'd bring him back on that money because there's impact players. I mean, it's a long regular season, and the Raptors love playing their starters 35 to 40 minutes per game in the regular season. Unnecessary, but I'm not going to question Nick Nurse and his rotation schemes. But the Raptors, they're a very injury-riddled team. They grind out a lot of close wins against bad teams. They're a team that loves to play down to the level of their opponent. And Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, an energy guy, he's one of those guys that can come in and actually contribute to momentum wins, or at least momentum shifts, which ultimately lead to a win. So I think it's a good thing to keep him around.
Yeah, especially on cheap money. And who knows what you'll need in the playoffs. I think there could have been stretches in the playoffs where he could have come in, especially when we were lagging in energy in that Celtics series. But yeah, he's a guy. Do you think any team comes out and overpays for a Rondae after what they saw in the regular season?
No.
Don't want to bring up the Hornets again, but do you think he gets a max contract from the Hornets?
We see the Hornets pay max contract to Serge Ibaka. They give $15 million to Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, and then all of a sudden everybody's saying we do not want Montrezl Harrell. It's like, can we please sign Montrezl Harrell?
Yikes. But Rondé's a free agent. We have different guys we gotta sort of bring up. But before we get into that sort of stuff, Ryker, we have some crazy Raptors news. I haven't thrown this actually in the podcast yet. I've been slacking on the segments, Ryker, but I'm gonna throw this here. We got some news. That did not work, so it's a good thing I didn't bring it up earlier. So it is what it is. But we have a Raptors injury news, Ryker. A guy in the locker room's out with a serious injury. Drake, it looked like he had apparent knee surgery. He posted on his Instagram with in a brace saying he's going to come back stronger than ever. What are the Raptors going to do without Drake right now being sidelined as we enter the season?
Ben, as a resident expert in knee injuries, particularly in getting knee injuries, being on the receiving end of them, I think I will let you sound off on it. I do think it's hilarious that this has been reported as if he was an NBA player, but he means something to the Raptors. So what's your initial reaction on this breaking news?
It's going to be disappointing. Certified Lover Boy's dropping now, January. I've torn my ACL. You can get hung up on that of some intense there. I think he'll be able to bounce back, drop some some crazy dance moves for Certified Lover Boy. If we get some fans, definitely by the time the fans are back in stadium, Drake is going to be back like jamming out and all these sorts of things. So, do you want to get a little Drake TikTok dance going? I know people like the little TikTok dances going for the.
Yeah, and that's a good segue to say, check out, tune in for, keep an eye out on the Raptors TikTok. Ben is about to. There's a reason. I guess you've just been scheming this whole time. I thought that this hair was just a meme. You're just growing it out for no reason, but it's to win the audience of all the 13-year-olds that are on TikTok. You had to have a haircut that really spoke to that demographic. So it all makes sense to me now.
The earring and stuff, like the drippy earring coming.
I'm just waiting for a couple of neck tattoos.
That's what
just like need. 1 or 2 eye tattoos.
Bro, what happened to the mustache, bro? People were flaming it at the start of this. What?
Yeah, so I'm doing it the honest way. I'm starting from the beginning.
Okay.
This is day 2, and I should have put up a link. I'll do that for our next live. So actually, my brother, he had cancer when he was 16. So I'm just trying to raise some money. I have my Movember page going. Next time we're doing live, if anybody wants to toss in $1 or $2, I have a $200 target, pretty modest. It goes towards a great cause. I have a ton of friends that have had cancer now and in their 20s, so it can really happen to anybody. So just shout out to awareness about that, and it really is a special cause. I think that everybody can get behind.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'll throw a link because I know a lot of people watch this after it's actually live. Throw a link in the description if it's not there. It'll be in the next one. We'll throw that. Should probably throw that in all the videos. Give it a little plug. That's a good thing to sort of plug out there. But yeah, definitely shout out to that. The mustache, people like the French mustache though, Riker. I can't believe you got the stubble going on the sides now. I haven't.
You have the stubble going, or I have the stubble
going?
You
got a little stubble going on the side.
Listen, it's just this will be shaved. You shave the side. That's the strategy. But anyway, we don't need to talk about my facial hair too much, nor your hair, Ben. But we can keep on the topic of aesthetics, and we'll just slightly pivot over to tattoos. Norman Powell, he's all about the grind man himself. People are back and forth about this guy, and Ben, he's got a tattoo. He feels like he deserves it, and we know what happens sometimes when guys go and self-proclaim something. It really comes to bite him. I'm looking at Paul George specifically in his own nickname, but. Does Norman Powell deserve this? Do you like it? Do you rate this tattoo?
Yo, I got it on the screen. Yo, lean over your Raptors jersey and just look up so we get a cool shot. Oh, the other way, bro.
Oh, this way?
Yeah. It's a
I'm
good
gonna
look.
hold it.
Yeah, we were both holding it. I was doing it earlier. It's kind of we're getting used to the video content here, but he's got the Raptors logo on the side of it. I think he has a UCLA Bears. I'm not sure what the other one is. It's got a L on the inside, but it's pretty cool that Norman Powell is gonna have the Raptors sort of logo on him for just ever. He's like Norman Powell's a goat. Unlock the Understand the grind. I think Roy Woods has unlocked the underground or something. UTU. Understand the grind. Norman Powell. Getting a Raptors tattoo, does this mean Norman Powell is going to be a career Raptor? We saw Bebe Nogueira get a Raptors tattoo on his side, and he was traded 6 months later or released 6 months later. Is this like a curse with a Raptors tattoo that will begin to happen, or do you see Norman Powell being with the Toronto Raptors long term?
Well, I think I have already said in this video, I think he is the perfect complementary trade piece that the Raptors have ever had. Be honest, because he's a mid-level salary guy that actually has trade value, so you can bring him in to balance a trade if you're looking to bring in a superstar. He's like the quarter, the 50-cent piece that you can trade away for $1. So I don't know if I'd see him being a career Raptor. Unfortunately, he didn't just straight up toss the Raptors logo on his arm. It's the logo that's cut into the trophy itself, and he was part of that championship team, so it's not like it's a stretch. It's not nothing crazy. And I just want to say, in terms of detail, it's a pretty cool tattoo. It's not a traditional one, and we see a lot of NBA guys botching their tattoos just because they got they probably get them all when they're 16 and they're just gross and whatever. But I like it. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good tattoo. Does it beat DeJounte Murray though?
No, and he went to cover it, dude. He ruined it. That was the best tattoo ever.
I think that
The
was like
baseball face.
that was like our third ever video, or it was in our first month or something. We did a Sully for like 200 subscribers, and we rated
Yeah.
people's tattoos.
Yeah. All right,
Quality
wait,
content.
hold up. We got some more questions saying, what is the honest update? Obviously, we're a bit delayed here, but I think it's worthwhile just beating this thing to death for the most part, Ben, because that's, obviously the title. And if anybody jumps in late, then I think it's
Mhm.
worth mentioning. Do you want to sound off on it this time? Keep it brief.
Yeah, Nicole something Moss from iHeartRadio came out and said that the Heat are going to be big landing suitors, or that he's basically willing to sign a long-term deal with the Miami Heat. There's trade packages going to be going around, so just another chip in all the things we've been talking about, pushing further and further, looking more and more likely like Giannis is going to go. Obviously, you can replay the live stream after we're finished to scope out everything we talked about on it. But it's pretty interesting with Giannis dipping. I don't know if we want to dive into it further again, Riker.
No, I'm not dive into it further, but I think that the whole point outstanding is that not only does this become a free agency debate, I don't think it's as removed that the Raptors have to wait for 2021 off season. I think that the bid for Giannis starts now, because if it keeps coming out that he's looking to sign to these other guys, he's going to become a trade piece, because the Milwaukee Bucks are not just going to let him walk. And now the Raptors have to start playing with, can they offer anybody to incentivize that? Do they want to do that? Do they want to go through another 1-year rental after everything that happened with Kawhi? And so that's the news that I think we're going to be speculating a lot more about now as more information comes out about this, man.
Riker, we're the Raptors Digest. We're going to be speculating on Giannis Antetokounmpo to the Toronto Raptors. But no, for sure. And you brought up 1-year rentals, and obviously one of the toughest 1-year rentals the Toronto Raptors ever had to leave. We had him last year. Danny Green came in, 1-year rental for the Toronto Raptors, left for LA, won another championship, Riker, but he's been coming out. He still doesn't have his championship ring. I know you want to sound off on it a little bit.
Yeah, I did want to sound off on it. I'm actually just laughing. I just saw one comment. I don't know. I don't know if the gaming kingdom is somebody that we know. It says Ben and Riker looking like a bunch of snacks. No cap. I love that. I love the snacks. I love snacks is like describing somebody is the funniest thing. Anyways, I want to talk about Norman Powell. I want to talk about Norman Powell,
Not Danny Green.
not Danny Green.
Okay.
I want to talk about Danny Green. And so I'm gonna hit the reset button here and talk about Danny Green specifically, because this man and Kyle Kuzma have gone through the absolute ringer. Their NBA championships, nobody can take that away from them, and yet their whole fan base has wanted to strip their rings from them. They don't feel like they've deserved that they were part of this playoff run. Somewhat deservedly, not so much the Kyle Kuzma side. He doesn't put up big numbers. Like all of a sudden, you don't want to give him a ring. Terrible, nasty franchise that the fan base that the Lakers have. But Danny Green, understandable. We've gone through the woes with him. We know that his productivity, his 3-point shooting is inconsistent, to say the best, come playoff time. But they've put so much hate on him, Ben. I'm questioning. He still hasn't got his ring. He wants to do it, quote, the right way.
Mm-hmm.
What is the right way? What is the reception going to be for him if he comes back to get his ring in Toronto land when things finally clear with COVID?
Riker, Danny Green's coming back in 2024. There's going to be a stadium packed. No games. 30,000 people just waiting to watch Danny Green catch that ring and do a live Inside the Green Room podcast with the Raptors Digest. I'm predicting that's happening.
Ooh. All right, I like that prediction. I don't know what people are saying about that. I don't know if anybody else is excited as I am about the prospect of Danny Green just getting trolled when he comes back for a ring. I think it's hilarious, the situation. No bad blood with him. He was very candid to say that he wants to put himself in a position to win. He's not a guy that's going to ultimately make or break a championship team, but he knows he can contribute. He came out and said, if Kawhi stays, I want to stay as a Toronto Raptor, but I'm going to kind of follow what the best opportunity is for me. He voiced that he was looking at LA, no bad blood there. And he wasn't that great that we felt like we lost a huge part of the team, but he was a nice guy to have around. And he left. He thought he could get a cool arm sleeve going, whatever. He put the Avengers on his arm and he just ended up getting weaker. I don't know if they sucked his life force out or something like that, Ben, but I don't know. I get excited about Danny Green. Maybe everybody else doesn't share that enthusiasm as much as me.
He was really good for us pre-finals. and like pre-Bucks series, a pre-playoffs-ish sort of deal. I'm thinking like going through the series, but he had occasionally had good games in the playoffs, but was definitely a monster for us during the regular season. He shot like mid-40s from the three-point line. He was a guy that you and I always talked about how clutch he was down the stretch of games. He brought that championship spirit, and then didn't really bring it in the playoffs. Almost had the worst moment in Toronto Raptors history when he turned over that ball to win the NBA championship. Thankfully, Steph Curry missed that open three to save us, from going to a Game 7. But, shout out Danny Green. He's a super likable guy. Has some wild quotes from the past. But inside the green room, it was fun watching him sort of be there. And it's kind of crazy how much trash he got from LA Lakers fans for just missing one shot once again.
Well, again, I think that they're a very negative fan base, but I've never been a fan of the Lakers. And so to me, it just reasserts, but I don't know. I guess it is fun no, I don't know. I don't think we bash on our own players, although people do like to bash on Siakam a lot and Norman Powell and Kyle Lowry at times. But anyways, Ben, that is sort of our take on Danny Green. I don't know. Do we have anything else sort of in our queue to talk about here? Have we gone through a lot of the information?
Well, I'm gonna throw it into the chat. Get ready. Don't throw them out yet. We got a little thing coming if the other segment works for questions. But we have one sort of last talk before we get real wild with the pod. But the league, we alluded to it earlier. The draft is apparently happening November 18th, Riker. That's 15 days away. We got a lot of stuff to sort of figure out with that draft coming. People have been asking us questions. You and I know no one in this draft outside of like James Wiseman, LaMelo Ball. So it's we got to learn some stuff on this. But yeah, got a cool things in a couple cool things in the bag coming for these upcoming weeks towards the draft. We'll sort of roll that stuff out as we go along. But that's happening there. Apparently free agency is happening 2 days after, and the league starting December 22nd. So there's going to be a short window of just pure madness across the league. A couple people asked during the stream, I'm not sure if they're still there, but when are trades supposed to be happening? When are all these things supposed to occur? Once the draft happens, trades can occur. 2 days after that, free agency will hit. So the rumors are going to be hot and wild. If you had time to think about hot takes, what are your thoughts on it just happening so soon from the turnaround?
I don't know, Ben. I think you sort of summarized it well to say we're playing catch up on a couple of the things that are happening now. What do you have any hot takes?
Well, I feel like there's going to be a lot of just stuff happen quickly, especially where the league has lost so much money. These smaller franchise teams, we've seen OKC want to blow it up. Different teams are just going to want to cut costs. Massive salaries are really tough to take on, and a team like the Toronto Raptors, who aren't known as a big market but have a lot of money backing them, could sort of play in benefit of that, take on some extra money from these, lower tier teams or smaller market teams, not necessarily lower tier, and maybe play up that. Some people are saying they're going to sell draft picks, and I guess my sort of hot take, something I could see the Toronto Raptors doing, especially with a couple of our young guys sort of falling off the team, Terrence Davis specifically, we're not sure what's going to happen there. I could see the Toronto Raptors maybe buying a second-round pick, maybe trading some cap space and like some, a deal that usually you haven't really seen happen in the past decade of basketball. Probably when you and I started watching, we saw more second-round picks being bought. But with what the Raptors have been able to do with their picks, and we've had so few because we've been in a win-now mode for so long, I could see Masai Ujiri sort of making a couple deals like that.
I think it's fair to say, I think the Raptors thrive well with their development team, and they're getting into a position now that they're having to pay all these guys. They just paid Pascal. They're going to have to pay Fred VanVleet. They got an aging Lowry who's still on big money. They're going to have to pay Serge Ibaka. All of a sudden you have all these guys who on their own, they're not able to win a championship. That's been already proven, and you need another piece, but you've already sucked up all your cap space on these guys that are complementary players. And that's the reason the Miami Heat had success this season, is because, Jimmy Butler had the kind of the thing or the it factor to get them most of the way. And their supporting cast is all guys that are on rookie contracts or not minimum, but, smaller deals. And the Raptors, they probably will have to go back to that unless they can win the Giannis sweepstakes or another big name player.
Yeah, and that's how the Raptors got better. We had Siakam, Fred, all these guys sort of waiting in the G League, waiting in these areas to sort of grow and prospered. We have Matt Thomas right now. Terrence Davis was supposed to be next in line, as we've said multiple times on this podcast. We're not sure what's going to happen in that situation, but I could see Masai Ujiri looking to sort of build that up, especially with now OG, Fred, and those guys coming to their own. They need their own DeLon Wrights, Norman Powells, Jakob Pertls, all these sorts of guys coming off their deep bench that can be rotation pieces. Not sure what you're going to get from them in the playoffs, but they grow into those types of players, especially with the high money we're probably going to have to pay Serge.
Yep, so I see one comment. It's actually a good point too. Any news on the re-signing of Masai? I haven't heard anything recently.
Yeah, that's something
that is an important point to bring up. That's a very, very important point to bring up. Who said that? Patrick McCabe. Very good point to bring up, because we're basically saying that all of these moves need to be made. We need to have our name in the potential trade situation this season for Giannis if his name gets put on the block. You need to be looking at guys like Oladipo or Drew Hall. There's just all these different options out there. But we all know that the mastermind behind the scenes is Masai. And the Raptors are a lot less likely to be able to pull off these big moves if he's not back at the helm again.
Yeah, no, that's 1,000% sure. And we're getting a lot more questions. So, Riker, I'm going to see if this segment works here. Let's try. You guys saw it. We're probably going to go longer than 2 minutes, but I think that one worked better than the other one. But we're a little bit behind on the comment things, so it looks like we're about 20 seconds behind now. But throw us some questions in the comment section. I saw a couple from earlier in the pod. Riker, what's your favorite food? I don't know if that guy's still there, but I think he asked that a couple times early on.
Who?
It's like NVO bar or something. What's your favorite food?
Favorite food?
Yeah.
Completely non-related to the Raptors. Favorite food is hamburgers and cinnamon buns on the dessert side, but very irrelevant to this podcast.
It's just one that sort of stuck out early, but yeah, no, mine's a good old feed of Sobeys cookies. You can down like a 12-pack of those like immediately. So that's my favorite food there. Would you guys want Kawhi back? Yeah.
Yeah, obviously you'd want Kawhi back.
Do you think the Raptors are about, I can't read right now, Fred, OG, Norm, and a first for Bradley Beal?
Hit me with that again?
Fred, Norm, the chat's going crazy, bro. It's flying. Fred, OG, Norm, and a first for Bradley Beal.
Fred, OG, Norm, first for Bradley Beal. Yes! Yes, 100%. I would trade away Fred. I would sign and trade Fred for a heartbeat with Bradley Beal. To me, Bradley Beal, you bring in Bradley Beal, you put him next to Pascal Siakam, you've got yourself a championship team already. Now you're able to be much more competitive in the honest free agency sweepstakes. That's my honest thought.
No trades. No trades with Otis and Anubis. We need to keep that guy. He's going to be the GOAT. Devin Booker, future Raptor.
No.
No?
No.
You don't want D'Angelo Russell, Karl Anthony Towns, and Devin Booker on the roster?
I don't think there's any way that you're going to swing any of those guys. I don't know if we want Kendall Jenner sitting on the courtside and bringing that Kardashian curse to the Toronto Raptors.
Do you want Melo?
Do you know what? Listen, Carmelo.
Every pod.
The NBA is like an open space. It's like the air. It's like the atmosphere. And NBA players, specifically NBA teams are a collection of balloons, and players are helium balloons. So you get enough good players, they're going to rise. And Carmelo Anthony is the one anomaly in the league where he's like that weight that holds down the balloons and keeps them back. And I said it time and time again, he's going to destroy the Thunder, and that team sucked. He's going to not do well on the Houston Rockets. He's going to implode that team. I was correct about that. I said he's not going to be great on the Portland Trailblazers, and unfortunately he did pretty good, but he is terrible. No place for him in the league.
So that's a yes on you wanting him. We got a lot of comments in here. I saw a decent one earlier.
But nobody's like this video too.
Yeah.
Or subscribe if you're not a subscriber.
If Giannis signs with the Miami Heat, what do we do? Or signs an extension?
You keep on keeping on.
But we got all that cap
you have an
space
answer
for
to that, Ben?
2021. If we got all the cap space for 2021, right? Like,
But it's hard to
deep,
sign a free agent, though. That's the issue.
but would you go after a guy like Oladipo there, especially if we have another year to see what level of ball he's playing at? Because he's been interested in the Heat, and that's where the place Giannis would go, or the Bucks, or whatnot. But there's players like Depot, there's players Kawhi, Paul George might be on the market. One of those guys, I don't know. Those are talks that have been not rumored or anything like that. But it's going to be interesting if the Clippers explode again. They could be players. Should we go after?
Here's the issue. Here's the thing, Ben. It's actually not a terrible situation that the Raptors would find themselves in if Giannis didn't come to the Toronto Raptors, because we already have the most difficult piece to get on a team, which would be that 3 to 4 spot, or even 5, a skilled big man that can stretch the floor. That's the hardest position to find or to fill in. The Kevin Durant or the LeBron James or the Kawhi Leonard. And Pascal Siakam is not at that level yet, but he's one of those guys that could be, right? It's a lot easier to find a guard that can be a complementary piece to a big man, but really to be a championship contending team, you need a Dirk Nowitzki, you need a Tim Duncan, you need a LeBron James, you need a big guy that has the skill of a guard. And the Raptors thankfully have that in Siakam, so they're not in a desperate spot.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Olynyk or Montrezl Harrell?
Olynyk.
Really?
Yeah, because you could play Olynyk in the playoffs.
Can you though, defensively?
Fair enough.
You can't
play Harrell at all because of 3-point shooting.
Defense, yeah. That's a fair point. Trez did average like 18 points per game though, decent rebounder, mobile, 6 man of the year.
But the Clips sat him. They sat him right on the pine the whole playoffs. So
was that because he sort of was out of shape, came back, obviously had all the stuff going on with the bubble, his grandmother, all that thing, or is that just Trez, the basketball player?
That is Montrezl Harrell having a limited ability to space the floor.
Debo, DeMar DeRozan, want him back?
No.
Riker, you've been avid about how you want DeMar DeRozan to return to this team. Every pod we're on. What made you change your mind?
I feel like people know my position on DeMar DeRozan, and they know your position on DeMar DeRozan. I don't know if we need to iterate that one much more.
I like DeRozan. Riker does not.
That's a very nice, gentle way of putting it.
Nice, gentle way of putting it. Danny's out here roasting you about Kelly Olynyk and Montrez. So,
all right, argue me with that.
What? Get him on the Twitter, bro. Shout out Raptors Digest Twitter. Do you McCaw for Leonard? These are getting a bit wild right now.
Wait, who? McCaw for Kawhi Leonard?
Yeah.
Is that what they said?
McCaw's got more chips.
Unfortunately.
McCaw's got more chips.
He ruined a streak. That's very unfortunate.
He was injured, all right? Like, if the Raptors had a healthy McCaw.
You want Marcus Morris? You want one of the Morris twins? We actually had a podcast breaking them down. I can't remember specifically what.
It was midway through last year, because it was Mark Keefe who said he's either going to join the Lakers or the Raptors. They were the two clear top choices, and then it ended up choosing the Lakers. But I feel like the Morris twins have this little pact to play for every single team in the NBA, like one of them at some point. So like one of them's got to join the Raptors. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, is this the year?
Most overrated coach in the NBA. So my opinion, if the Bucks didn't lose the way that they did, it would be Mike Budenholzer, because you can't be a one-trick pony. You can't be I think it's very chronicled on what his limitations are as a coach, and so I think he really dropped down the hierarchy. I'd have to think about.
Mine's Billy Donovan. I think Billy Donovan's just kind of trash. He doesn't have a creative. He
didn't do a good job with Russell Westbrook at all.
Yeah, and he doesn't have. His offense isn't that great. The team got better because of Chris Paul, and they had a good roster. Like, people don't really realize that team was actually like kind of nice. CP3, Shea, Schroeder, all those guys are 20-point per game capable scorers. Danilo Gallinari's a monster on the offensive end. Steven Adams is a phenomenal defender. They have athletic three-point shooting bigs sort of coming off their bench. Even though people thought that they were going to be bad because they were going to trade everybody, but they kept everyone, so they were good. Like, that's just what happened. It wasn't Billy Donovan being like a tremendous coach. He couldn't coach Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. That was the year they blew the 3-1 lead. You got KD and Westbrook. You can't just be trash like that. They had a good roster then too. They couldn't make it over like the 6th seed out of the first round with Paul George and Westbrook. I know PG gets trashed on. I think he's just not a good coach.
It was whoever what was his name? He's the coach of the Wizards now. That was the coach when KD was on the Thunder.
Scott Brooks.
Yeah, Scott Brooks, yeah. But I think the issue too with the nature of coaching in the NBA is that there's a lot less leniency, I think, towards having a bad season now than there might have been in the past. Mm-hmm. And, the league is showing and GMs are showing that they're very willing to fire coaches, very quickly. So I don't think there's anybody that's particularly overrated. You could put Doc Rivers into a category, but everybody's bashed on him. Brent Brown into a category, everybody's bashed on him. Greg Popovich, he just had a terrible team that last year. So it's hard to say that was his fault. No, any team that LeBron's played on, they always know that the coach is not strong, except for Eric Spoelstra, but the rest of the guys, I don't think anybody's really overrated in the league anymore, Ben, and from a coaching perspective.
Yeah. That's
Van Gundy or something.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be tough to sort of break down coaches. We've got a lot of sort of the chat's wilding right now. Got one. I'm going to sort of combine a couple of questions. Who would you rather return, Linus Kleza or Luis Scola?
Oh, Luis Scola, man. He was nasty on that Argentina FIBA team. I just like that man. I like Luis Scola. Yeah, you're looking like a blonde Luis Scola. How's your Espanol? You could
you can speak Spanish, can't you?
I'm gonna try to relearn it. So
yeah,
I'll be talking to all the mamacitas.
Any Spanish girls in the chat, definitely hit up Riker. He's gonna try and learn Spanish once again. But Kleza coming back. I'll be your wingman on this podcast, right?
Linus Kleza wasn't hand down, man down. That was around the Linus Kleza time, I believe.
Hand down.
I think when saying hand down, man down.
That was peak Chris Move time.
Was popular. I think Linus Kleza, because I have an image of Linus Kleza being the shooter when you say hand down, man down, and I don't know if that's just being weird or. I don't know.
What?
Nah, dude, that's the image that comes to mind with Linus Kleza.
In the thick Lithuanian accent, hand down. I can't do a Lithuanian accent, but not even.
Shout out to our best 3-pointer in the league.
Yes.
Meme video with Jonas Valanciunas, and it was just 50,000 views and just 1,000 comments, all Lithuanians commenting in whatever their language is.
Yeah, for people that don't know, Riker and I got viral in Lithuania email chains in 2017. So that's how we sort of blew up a little bit. But Siakam for Zach LaVine.
Oh, you.
That's Yuck. A big ooh. Big ooh. I just got this jersey, bro. We can't trade Siakam after I get this new Siakam jersey. What is the chat going on with?
Anybody for LaVine?
Rondae? I don't know. Maybe they'd be interested in TD. I don't know. But I feel like he'll be waived. Do you think that he'll be waived? With things going on, especially with the season coming so close.
I think he'll get waived. I think he will get waived ultimately.
Yeah, obviously, because it's gonna be tough. Because it's tough to make a decision. People said that in the comment section. It's not official. He hasn't been. I think I'm losing the word here. Officially charged with it or something, it hasn't been proven.
Convicted.
He hasn't been convicted with it. But he has been charged, and with it coming back so soon, we did bring up other people that have been in similar situations, like the Morris twins and stuff, but they weren't ended up convicted. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. A lot of people are asking that.
Yeah, I think ultimately he'll still have a place in the NBA probably, but it won't be with the Raptors. That's what I see happening.
Yeah, so it's going to be tough, especially where he's he was legitimately arrested for it. and there's so little time, it would be a bad look for one of the league's most progressive organizations to really keep a guy like that on. But that's just our predictions. Obviously, there's going to be stuff going on. Miles Turner for Norman Powell.
I like Miles Turner. I think we're a little bit weak in the center position specifically, so I wouldn't hate Miles Turner.
Yeah, especially with Marcus All gone. You like the New Jerseys?
No.
No?
No, dude, you got to put up the Reddit link of the guy who adjusted the jerseys like slightly and made them look 100 times better.
Yeah.
Shout out to that guy. Like those look way better. They should have consulted him.
See, I don't mind these jerseys. Like, I think they're pretty cool. Seeing it in person, it actually looks pretty clean.
But you're right though. The black outline,
the lettering messes it up. But
yeah, it makes no sense.
It is what it is. Yeah. People don't really like the jerseys. McCaw for Caruso. I think that's a deal that could actually happen.
No.
Nah? Like you wouldn't want it, or do you think it just?
I wouldn't want it. I actually like McCaw. I'm very high on his potential. We haven't seen him play. We haven't seen McCaw unleashed.
Yeah. No, I actually agree with that. But do you think like it would even like be possible?
Would it be possible to trade McCaw straight up 1-for-1 with Caruso if the salaries lined up?
Yeah. No,
because Caruso's actually like played more, I guess, in a ball handling position. But in those couple of games that we saw him play as a point guard, McCaw, he wasn't terrible.
Yeah, no, he's definitely good. Did you trade Siakam for Michael Porter Jr.?
No, but I would trade somebody for Michael Porter Jr.
Bruh. Michael Porter Jr. I'm like he's gonna be really good, but I don't know if he's not a guy that fits with the Toronto Raptors. A guy that doesn't.
Have you seen the video? That's true. Have you seen the video of Bull's off-season training?
Where he's like, I saw something where he's just like dunking everything and he's like hitting the backboard and stuff.
His training is just dunking, and it's just from a 2-foot stationary jump to slap like the very top of the backboard, and then to like do burpees where he just dunks it like 5 times in a row. Like it's, can you imagine just being that tall?
Do you remember when you and I used to do that drill right here? Like,
yeah, it would be very cool if I could touch the bottom of the mat. Like that would be a cause for celebration.
Bro, just Newfoundland provincial practice. You and I doing burpees, grabbing the top of the backboard.
Yeah, but that was pretty cool because remember that. So the backboard, most backboards in a gym situation, if they're the nicer plexiglass ones or fiberglass or whatever, they go below. So you have like the rim.
They pop down below, and you feel like a beast.
And then you have the screw and like the actual part of the rim that's like a box on the back. It has to be flush with that. So the actual board is a little bit below. I'm just explaining for the listener's benefit. And then there's usually like a foam piece just so people don't hit their head. So it's probably like, I don't know,
that foam
10 inches lower. It's probably like 9 feet tall, and people could like just kind of graze it on a layup and think you're so cool to do a layup and touch that foam. That'll tell you how short and terribly unathletic we are.
Hey, I used to be able to get rim. I used to be able to get rim before I tore my ACL. I had some ups. I'm flexing that. I'm starting to stretch again, bro. My ups are coming back. Are. You think Kyle Lowry will be a coach?
Could be.
Think he'll coach the Toronto Raptors, player coach.
I could see him coming in as an assistant coach, same capacity Tim Duncan sort of slipped into the Spurs organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Lowry's going to end up becoming a coach. Where do you think the Toronto Raptors will play next season? Kansas City's been coming out. I believe it's Kansas, right? They made a big old pitch to get the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, KC. Yeah, somewhere like that. I thought it would have made the most sense put them in Buffalo or put them in somewhere along the border, but who knows?
Should the Toronto Raptors sign Alex Superman Johnson from the NBL Canada or Grandy Glaze? You're not a St. John's Edge guy, bro?
So listen, we've signed on a prolific writer, a terrific guy who's very into prospects, and Josh Goodwin. He will be able to break down those little nuanced players.
Bro, you got to be the guy breaking down this little nuance of the St. John's Edge, bro.
I don't know a single player on the St. John's Edge.
Yo, Big Baby Davis.
Is he still there?
Cool. I don't know. But for people that don't know, Ryker and I are from like St. John's area, so we're big fans of the St. John's Edge. Clearly, Ryker is right now, but we had Big Baby Davis pulling up.
Yeah, hitting on all the cute girls at the club that are our age. It's hard to compete with a 400-pound, 6'9" baby-faced
NBL
killer.
player. Man, who do you think the Raptors will draft?
That's actually going to be a full podcast, so we don't want to.
Yeah.
There's a couple of interesting prospects.
My little machine learning models I'm going to try and build for the draft just so I don't have to read too many articles. What do you think is going to happen with Paul Watson, Riker?
Start playing.
What?
We'll start cracking the roster.
He's going to be a GOAT. Especially with TDs, like opportunities, like something, that's probably gone. I see him jumping like Matt Thomas and sort of being in that rotation as our backup shooting guard.
Oh, that's a hot take.
I get like he can dunk, he can dribble, he's a shooter. Who are you higher on, Paul Watson or Matt Thomas? Paul Thomas or Matt Watson?
Listen, we got to shut this down. We're just going on fumes here answering these obscure questions. I'm a Matt Thomas guy. He just 99%. He offers too much. I mean, he's, there's a career out there for guys that can shoot the lights out. Duncan Robinson, JJ Redick, Kyle Korver. There is a position on NBA rosters for guys that can exclusively shoot the three. And somebody who can do it at the clip that Matt Thomas can, it makes sense that he could be a formidable role player.
Yeah, for sure. And I have no idea how long we've gone right now. We could have went anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours. So we'll sign it off here. You guys are the best for making this far. Our last 2 minutes of question breaking ended up probably being like 20 minutes, but love the questions. If you have any more, leave them in the comment section after the pod is dropped. Leave them in all the comment sections. We're coming. Obviously, as we alluded to, there's going to be some crazy news happening over the course of the next couple of weeks. We got a lot of content, a lot of cool things coming. The TikTok, I'm done with like a bunch of school stuff now, so we're going to try that to get going. We got some article stuff popping. We got some all that. We got the little dance moves going. You need to get one of these lights, bro.
I was supposed to be the rap horn guy, but I didn't have the iPad on me today, so
it's a tough life. But you guys are the best to make this far. We always kind of mess up this live stream ending, but
just sign it off the regular way, Ben.
You guys are the best to make it this far. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. Riker, any last words?
This is for me, Ben. Cheers.
Brother, you could have picked up your chair or something, made a visual meme out of it.
Oh, next time.
Tough.